Home Assistant is one of those self-hosting projects that once you set it up, you wonder how you ever lived without it. From automated lighting to window coverings that open and close when the sun goes up and down, to climate controls, to my standing desk shouting at me that I haven't stood up for the last 6 hours. All of these disparate ecosystems used to require bespoke apps, but now with Home Assistant, they're brought together under a single pane of glass and a single control surface. It's awesome. Anything can talk to anything. But how do you talk to your Home Assistant when you're not at home? You know, when you're just coming up the hill and you want to pop the garage door or pre-cool the house in summer before you get home or something like that. By pairing Home Assistant with Tailscale, we can enable anything to talk to anything in your digital life, regardless of where it's physically located. That means your phone can talk to your Home Assistant at home behind a firewall with no ports open using Tailscale. Now, it's been a couple of years since we covered Home Assistant on the channel, but in today's video, I want to give you a quick rundown of how to install Tailscale on top of Home Assistant in 2026 and show you how you can access your smart home remotely from anywhere in the world completely for free using Tailscale. Alrighty, so I have a completely fresh version of Home Assistant set up here. In fact, I think the only thing that it's picked up to automatically control is the Elgato key light that I have just off to my left up here. Anyway, proof that Home Assistant is able to control random ecosystems right out of the box. But to connect this up to Tailscale, we do need to install a couple of plugins. So let's go down to the settings option right here, and then, well, they've renamed it apps in a recent update since I last covered this. So go to apps and then install two apps that we're going to need here. One is Tailscale. So let's go ahead and get that installing. And then the other one is Studio Code Server, and we'll need this to modify a configuration file in just a couple of minutes. Now, I should call out that both of these are maintained by Frank, who is one of the core Home Assistant developers. Big shout out to him. Thank you, Frank, for your work on this. Now, we want to bring up the Tailscale plugin. So let's get started by heading over to the Info tab and just clicking on the Start button. This is going to install the container and do the first startup procedures, and this will take a couple of minutes depending on your system. Whilst that's running, let's talk a little bit about Tailscale. This is a remote access solution and it's completely free for home users. We recently updated our pricing now to include unlimited free user devices, as well as now upping the number of seats from 3 users to 6 users on our free plan. So you should be able to invite the entire household, hopefully, into the same Tailnet and just have everybody access Home Assistant remotely from their phones wherever they are. You can get started by going to tailscale.com and clicking on the Get Started It's Free button. Sign up for a free account. And you can see I've already got a few devices here in my Tailnet, for example. You know, I have my iPhone here, my orange iPhone. I've got Baldric, which is the laptop in front of me, and a couple of other things on my Tailnet as well. Now, the Tailnet's the name that we give to the groups of devices that form your Tailscale network. Now, whilst we're on the admin console, I want to talk about DNS because this is an important thing. When we're accessing Home Assistant right now, look, we are accessing 192.168.1.234 with a port number of 8123. Wouldn't it be nice if we could type a real DNS name into our browser and access Home Assistant without worrying about port numbers or IP addresses? Well, that's exactly what Tailscale's MagicDNS lets you do. So in the DNS tab right here, every Tailnet gets a unique Tailnet DNS name. Click on the Rename Tailnet button because, by default, all Tailnets come with this kind of slightly ugly name here, but you can re-roll your Tailnet name into something much more fun, something with a tail and something with scales.ts.net. This is free for every Tailscale account, and there's really no good reason not to do it. Down towards the bottom of the page, though, you do need to make sure that you've got MagicDNS turned on, although this has been the default to be turned on for new Tailnets now for a couple of years, so it's probably already turned on for you, but if it isn't, just make sure it is. And then HTTPS certificates as well, because we're going to provision one of those using Tailscale Serve to get that wonderful DNS name instead of the IP address and port combo a little bit later on. By now, the Tailscale integration should have started on your Home Assistant instance, and now all we need to do is click on the Open Web UI button right here. Then follow it up by clicking on the Login button, at which point you might get a pop-up blocked warning. If you do, just allow the pop-up and it will take you into a new tab where you can select the Tailnet that you want to connect this device to. If you don't see this screen, it's because you've only got one Tailnet assigned to your account. Because I do demos for Tailscale all the time, I've got 2 listed. If you don't see that, don't worry. You should just get to this screen here where it says Login Successful, and Home Assistant is now logged in to your Tailnet. So remember I talked about the fully qualified domain name, the FQDN, homeassistant.velociraptor-noodlefish. This is where we can start to configure that. But if you wanted to, you could just type this IP address into your phone and access Tailscale remotely without doing anything with TLS or anything like that. But I like TLS certificates. I like DNS domain names, right? So let's get that configured. Head on back to settings and then apps and then Tailscale, and then head on into the documentation section right here. We're going to need to go and copy something into our configuration file a little further on. So let's just scroll all the way down this page and look for these 4 lines right here. We're going to need to copy this into our Home Assistant configuration.yaml file, and we access that by going to settings and then apps and then starting the VS Code Studio server. This essentially runs VS Code in the browser on top of Home Assistant, and it allows you to access and modify configuration files within Home Assistant itself in the browser. No SSH, no remote, this, that, and the other. It's just a very easy way to modify your configuration.yaml file. Once that container has started, which can take a minute or two, click on Open Web UI, and then, yeah, I guess I trust them all. And then just modify your configuration.yaml by pasting in those 4 lines. Save the file, and I find it necessary to go to this menu sometimes. Sometimes keyboard shortcuts don't pass through properly to the Studio Code version in the browser. I don't know why, but just to be safe, use that menu and then click on settings and then restart Home Assistant this way. Now this will take 30 seconds. I mean, this is a fresh install, so it might take even less. Depending on how many add-ons and plugins and things you have configured, this might take a couple of minutes. But once we've restarted Home Assistant, we then want to go back to our apps page and then click on Tailscale one more time and go into the configuration option that's right here. Scrolling down, we have an option here called Share Home Assistant with Serve or Funnel. Now I'm going to jump straight to Funnel because this is an option that allows you to put your Home Assistant on the public internet. Anybody that knows your DNS name will be able to hit your Home Assistant in your house. You almost certainly don't want this option. Funnel is designed for, I'm prototyping a website on my laptop. I'm a developer or whatever, and I want to share my prototype with someone remotely that I'm talking to on Slack or something. Like, that's the kind of use case that we envisaged with Funnel. And putting a self-hosted application like Home Assistant that has access to probably some sensitive things in your house, like garage door openings or door locks or whatever, I just don't think is a good idea. Like, you do you, but like, I would just caution, if you're going to use Funnel, like, just don't. Just don't. I'm going to recommend that we use Tailscale Serve, and functionally they will perform the same thing. So long as you have the Tailscale client connected and logged in on your devices, you'll be able to access your Home Assistant wherever you are. And so the whole purpose of putting it on the public internet is so that somebody else that's not on your tailnet could access it, which is almost certainly not what you want. So by configuring Serve here, what we're going to do is put our tailnet, or put our Home Assistant through a reverse proxy running in Home Assistant and make it accessible through a fully qualified domain name to any device on our tailnet. Now, if we click on the logs here, we should see that available within our tailnet is homeassistant.velociraptor-noodlefish. You can see on the back end that Tailscale reaches out and does all of the DNS ACME challenges so that you don't have to worry about any of that. And it just works. There you go. So let's get logged into Home Assistant. And boom, as long as I'm connected to Tailscale through a client on the device that I want to connect to Home Assistant through. So on my phone, for example, I would just open up Home Assistant, connect to my Home Assistant, don't allow on local networks. And I'm just going to go into my Tailscale app right here, look for the Home Assistant node in my tailnet, copy the MagicDNS name, go back to Home Assistant, paste it in, and it very helpfully asks me, did I mean to put HTTPS in front of that domain name? Yes, I did. Now I'm connected to Tailscale on this phone. In fact, I'm currently on the Wi-Fi, but if I want to prove to you this is going to work wherever I am. So I've just turned the Wi-Fi off, simulating that I am now not on my network, and I am now connected to my Home Assistant over cellular connection wherever I am. And this can be really, really useful if you want to do things like location-based automations, like, is my phone currently on the correct Wi-Fi or whatever, like to detect whether I'm home or not. And there you go, folks. There is my phone connected to Home Assistant over 5G in, 5 minutes? It really is as straightforward as you can get. Now, there are a bunch of other configuration options here, which I'll just touch on a couple. One is accept DNS. This will allow Home Assistant to use the Tailnet's MagicDNS feature to reach out across the Tailnet and talk to other devices. You probably want that turned on. Advertise as exit node. This one's up to you. So at the moment, my phone's internet connection is exiting onto the public internet as if I am on this phone. But if I go to my admin console and go into this three-dot menu here, edit route settings, and check the box that says use as exit node, I can now go into my iOS app here and use Home Assistant as an exit node. So I can now tunnel all of the traffic from my phone out through, well, goes through a tunnel between my phone and the Home Assistant instance, makes a direct connection, so it's very performant. All the traffic from my phone is now exiting onto the public internet from where this Home Assistant box is. Now, exit nodes are just one feature of Tailscale that's really useful, but I think for a lot of Home Assistant users, leaving this exit node thing turned on might be really useful and get you out of a bind. Like there's been times where I've wanted to access my online banking when I'm traveling, and I've had an exit node in my Home Assistant and it saved my bacon. So don't overlook that one. Now, the one other thing I want to touch on just briefly are subnet routes. This is particularly useful when you want to access devices that can't run Tailscale natively, things like ESP home devices maybe, or other MQTT devices, or just, to be honest with you, any device that can't natively run Tailscale, like a coffee pot maybe, or some kind of a smart TV or something like that, in a remote subnet. So you can literally go in here and type the 192.168.1.whatever/24 and advertise that subnet of devices to any other device on your Tailnet, and we'll publish what's called a subnet route. So my phone would get published that subnet and know that if it wants to reach that IP address, it has to transit through the Home Assistant node. It's quite an advanced topic, but if you need it, you probably know you need it, and this is how you enable it. By default, this Home Assistant plugin will detect the subnet that it's already in. So Frank's set it up so that it's already detected it's in the 192.168 subnet. So if I check this box and click save, I'll now be able to access any device on that subnet from any Tailnet connected device. It's super cool. As I say, a bit more of an advanced topic, but if you need it, you probably know you need it. And that's it, really. There are some other things we could look at, but I don't want to get this video to be too complicated. I would also love to just give a shout out to the Home Assistant project. The Open Home Foundation are doing some incredible work. I've used Home Assistant now for, gosh, it must be getting on for 8+ years at this point. Paulus and the guys over at that Home Assistant Nebu Casa project, they're just doing amazing work. Go support them. The Nebu Casa project is how the funding for Home Assistant works. So go feed your local open source developer. They will very much appreciate it. And in the meantime, you can continue to access your Home Assistant remotely using Tailscale for free. We've committed to keeping that free plan free forever, so you can build on Tailscale with confidence. Now, until next time, thank you so much for watching. I've been Alex from Tailscale.